Yep.
Roberto, I appreciate so much the wonderful job you've done as the 20th president of the American Society of Echo, but for visiting with us. Let me ask you, let's start out on when were you first exposed to echo? When did you first see it?
Well, I saw it when I sort of started my training. There was a person who was using a SmithKline machine and was just doing M mode. And one thing that I remember that startled me so much was the systolic anterior motion of the mitral valve on an M mode recording. And I think that was the first time that this thing clicked on me.
And did you say, I want to become, were you in your training then, or were you a medical student?
No, I was in my training of internal medicine when I saw it, but I think that is the point where I decided, I already knew I was going to go into cardiology, but then I decided that I was going to go into non-invasive cardiology. I also still remember when I saw for the first time 2D echo. I was relatively young, but that was really made a big impression on me.
When you first started, when you first started, quotes, practicing, whether you were a resident, a fellow, or whatever with echo, what did you go after? What did you apply it to?
Well, I think at that time we applied it for chamber dimension, for pericardial effusion, for prolapse, for SAM, for aortic stenosis, but just the common things, not the explosion of what we see now.
You've been so instrumental in three-dimensional transesophageal echo, tremendous, we talked about it earlier, a tremendous sort of coming together of developments in industry and then developments of individuals being able to take the technology. What did you think the first time you actually saw the 3D live TEE?
Well, actually, I got a little bit lucky because I think academia cannot compete with industry. We need to partner with them. But I was lucky that the 3D was not in a vertical machine, but was a horizontal machine when I started to see it. And when I first saw the initial images, I thought, this is it, because the images are fantastic and they're easy to acquire. And that's why it became vastly used on a clinical basis, not like an obscure research tool.
When you look back over your personal career with echo, meaning seeing it from the early days to now, what do you think it's been its contributions?
Well, I think we all agree that echo is the backbone of cardiology, and you cannot practice cardiology if you don't have an echo machine. We see fellows that barely know how to use this machine, but at night they make a diagnosis of a pericardial effusion. So it is, I think, part of what we do every single day, and without it, it would be very difficult to practice.
The future of echo, you've been involved in all of its developments. Where do you think the future is going to be?
Well, it's every time or every so many years we say, well, what are we going to come up with next? I think we're going to see in the next couple of years an explosion of quantitation of three-dimensional echo. And I think we're going to see 3D transthoracic echo approach the quality of transesophageal echo. We'll also see a miniaturization. We're going to see intracardiac echo in 3D and so on. 3D echo will permeate. It will not only be done by cardiologists, but also by the interventionalists very soon.
You've obviously you've done a wonderful job as president of the American Society of Echo. You've pushed education. You're a phenomenal educator. How did you get involved with the American Society of Echo?
That is a very good question. I don't really know exactly how but this is what I was doing, and I remember going to one of the first scientific sessions in Boston. I don't know exactly which one it is.
Sure.
But and then I had the opportunity of many of the people I looked up to, and I was lucky that I was given space to participate, and then that's it.
During your presidency this year, what have been the initiatives that's really that you're sort of really grabbed hold of and run with?
So I think I would say three things. The first thing is we have completely changed the way that we educate echo, and ASE is now at a leader of this. And if you think about it, this year, between the courses that we do and the ones we sponsor, we'll have over 40 conferences led by the American Society of Echo. So that's one. The second one is the explosion of the educational material. We have now true guidelines almost for the quantitation of valvular function and chamber function. These have been portrayed in posters. I have had, thanks to Echo, the opportunity to travel, and you see that people use these guidelines. You go to a lab in China and people are using these guidelines. So we have truly helped Echo to be more uniform and to quantitate. And the third one is advocacy, and that was not as rosy as the other two. That was really bumpy this year. But I think those would be the three initiatives that we worked so hard as a group to advance Echo with.
If you look back and think about, your career, and we all had a chance to recently get together and reflect on our history corporately and individually with Echo, and you've had a unique opportunity in coming to this country. What do you think that the society and the relationships that have developed with Echo have meant to you?
Well, Echo has been such an important part of my life, meaning coming to this country, this is the beauty of America, that you can really be a foreigner and you can rise as hard as you work, no matter how you look, you can really make it in this country. And that is something that I always feel extremely fondly about. Echo has given me friends. Echo has allowed me to get to know the world. Echo has made my career extremely important and meet unbelievable people. So I will always be grateful to Echo.
I wanted to ask you also, and I meant to ask you earlier, that you've, in talking with others like Walt Henry and Tony DeMaria and Rich Pop, that a lot of the early users of Echoes were doing it themselves. And then over the years, a tremendous symbiotic relationship with sonographers. And you've had a fabulous group of sonographers. What do you see the role of sonographers in not only in the society, but also in Echo to now being in the future?
Well, I think that is what makes our society so unique, is the fact that we partner with the sonographers. And I truly see them like fellows in which we need to teach them. I have people that are working for me for 20 years, and they know much more Echo than a new fellow will, and for many, many years. So this relationship is instrumental. Without good sonographers, you can't really construct or build a good 3D lab or a good 2D lab. So they're instrumental part. The more time you spend teaching and interacting with the sonographers, the better your lab is going to be.
They're really colleagues. They're our colleagues.
They are totally our colleagues, and I truly see that as a horizontal relationship in which, at least in our lab, they have opportunities to come and ask. They make decisions when to give contrast. They make decisions when they need to have a TE. So they're truly, truly our colleagues.
My final things are, if you sort of, you're in your position now, as you look toward the future, where do you think we'll be with Echo in 5-10 years?
I think things are changing. The younger physicians are now thinking not only to be an echo doc, but to be a cardiac imaging. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very important for our society to understand that and to act accordingly. We need to think about diseases, and we need to think about the role of all the imaging modalities under one doctor, physician, technician to get the best answer.
Excellent. Listen, you have done a fabulous job as an educator and as the president of the American Society of Echo. Thanks very much for joining us.
And thank you for inviting me.